So I don't know if we met anyone that's on the call today at IT Nation, but if we did meet you and had a chance to talk with you, it was certainly good. And boy, we're seeing that cyber insurance is just becoming, it's gone from hot to like magma level hot, right? And that's a good thing. I don't know, Reed and Dustin, if we want to share any slides or we just want to talk. What do you guys think?
Well, I feel like the three of us have, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, a knack for just rolling with it. So I'll tell you what, Wes, I'm going to keep the slides up for us just to stay on track because I know we get
Okay.
we get really, really invested in this, but let's keep it casual.
Okay. I like casual. That sounds great. So as you go and grab those slides, then I'll just do a quick intro. So you've got myself. My name is Wes Spencer. I'm the channel chief at FifthWall, and just helping our MSPs grow in cyber insurance. Right, figuring out how do we navigate the waters, how do we get involved in it, how do we build that process into our MSP so that we can get efficient. We've also got Reed Wellock on. Reed is our president and resident cyber insurance nerd, which is great because I don't think there's very many people that hold a candle to what he knows. It's pushed all his hair out. And then we also got Dustin Bolander on. Dustin's great to see you. Dustin, you want to say hi and why you're unique on this call?
Yeah, so I have been in the MSP space since like 2008. I'm on my second MSP now, so Clear Guidance Partners down in Austin. We mostly do law firms. Got 26 people now, and I got connected with Reed literally about 2 years ago now. And part of my frustration was, in cyber insurance was just driving me nuts, trying to find somebody to help. Mutual friend connected us, and we really hit it off. And full disclosure, I spend like 2 days a week now at FifthWall, helping on the technology side of things. So I'm a MSP cyber insurance nerd, I guess. Is that a whole new best of
Yeah,
both
that's
worlds or worst of both worlds, depending on your point of view?
yeah, that's definitely an amalgamation there that no one ever thought would happen, but 2022 happened, and so here we are. Awesome. So it's great to have you. So maybe why don't we start with this a little bit of who FifthWall is. If you were not able to attend our session at IT Nation, what we want to do is kind of unpack some of the keys that were inside of all of this. So, Reed, do you want to get started on who FifthWall is and what we're doing with MSPs?
Sure. So let me hit first who Fifth Wall is, what we do, what we're all about, and that'll be a nice dovetail into why we talk to MSPs and work with MSPs. So Fifth Wall has been around since 2015, and we only do cyber insurance. So we're a wholesaler, which you can kind of think of us like a distributor. We sit above the retail marketplace. So we got your regular retail agent when they're saying, hey, I need to get cyber for my client, but I don't have access to a lot of folks. Who do I go to? They come to Fifth Wall because we then access the entire marketplace, right? We've got about 95% access, and it's direct access. It's directly with the underwriters. So we don't go through a broker. That's what makes us really unique is this is when you pick up the phone and you call us, we can then talk to that carrier directly. So we've got access to over 40 different carriers, which is really cool. We've been helping agents across the country for many years to go through this process. But for any MSPs on the call that are kind of getting into cyber insurance, whether you want to or not, probably because you got pulled into this, we acknowledge that pretty early on. So when Dustin and I started talking about 2 years ago, a lot of the questions that were being asked was, all right, what's an MSP's role like this in this today, and what does it look like in the future? Well, we said, all right, let's start working with MSPs because they're getting pulled into the equation anyway. And what happened was kind of beautiful was that we realized this was a much better risk advisor to be working with, right? We were working with someone that the conversation's happening with them. It's inevitable, but this is a community that has direct control over what the insurance world is asking for. And we can actually leverage that, right? So Dustin and I started talking about this. Wes, that's about whenever we brought you into the equation and say, all right, we really want to start understanding. It's one thing to be working with MSPs, but how do we work with the community, right? Because as was mentioned, I'm a big insurance nerd. It's not the coolest thing in the world. I may not be as relatable to MSPs in the community. So wait a minute, we know a guy, Wes. He knows the community. He knows them really well. So that was what we brought the team together to try to build this out to be more of a service, right? What can Fifth Wall bring as far as our access, our expertise, our understanding of the process directly to an MSP's front door, so they can use us and leverage us to work with their client. And so far, we've been doing really well. I think we're at over 600 partners now, which is pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing indeed. It's great, seeing that tremendous growth. And I think what we've seen with it, and Dustin, I'm going to flip this to you, is as an MSP, I think it's easy to see growth in the cyber insurance space of like MSPs are being pulled into these conversations. Clients are like, yo, you're the IT nerd, so figure out this crazy application I got that makes no sense. And then MSPs get pulled into it, and they're like, well, am I taking liability on this? And like, how do I handle this? Because I know you're not doing this, and you're not doing this, and you're not doing that. And so this is why we've grown. It's no shock that we're at 600 plus partners and growing fast because of this craziness. But Dustin, from your side of the fence as an MSP and one that's leading in cyber insurance, give us your view a little bit on what's kind of caused all of this, and a little bit on how you guys at Clear Guidance decided to go down this journey of building mastery around insurance.
Yeah, so the leading thing that's caused it is read, cover your ears. But the cyber insurance people don't know that much about cybersecurity. There's a big gap in that. So a lot of it was what was frustrating early on is insurance is asking for stuff. Do you have MFA? It's like, dude, that's such a broad question that yes, I have MFA. Like, what do you want me to do with it, kind of thing. So going through that, and then it was the agents tend to be, I don't want to say a problem, but in a way, one of two things happens is either your client's agent doesn't know what they're doing with cyber insurance, or the ones that do or think they do are suddenly causing headaches because your customer as MSP, like they're coming back to me going, hey, my agent just told me we need to do this. And it's like, well, hold on a second, we already got something in place. Or even worse was whenever they introduced me to this, MSSP, and Jimmy Trunkslammer down the street, he's going to bring in this cool new MFA that he programmed himself. So that's where I started. I wanted to get ahead of it to where I could be the authority for the customer. And even right now, right, it's the end of the year, so it's in the thick of things. There's all these people renewing. We're going through on talking to all of our customers saying, hey, it's the 7th. We haven't seen your cyber insurance app come across yet. Like, you need to get that to us. We have about half our customers at this point that are working with FifthWall. The other half still have an agent that they just won't let go of. So we're driving that conversation, making sure it gets done on time and done properly.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, so it's been from a huge pain in the butt to now some of the stuff we were going to talk about today is cyber insurance is the best sales tool, to be blunt, that's come along for security ever.
So we hinted at that already, right? In terms of, MSPs are getting these applications. So I'm sure you're getting applications. But at Clear Guidance, Dustin, you guys are actually leading with this. You're not just passive and reactive. You're actually really proactive with your clients, right? Can talk to me about how that happens and how you guys are leveraging cyber insurance in your conversations every day with your clients.
Yeah, so we built a lot of our call it client materials, right? We're using cybersecurity framework, the NIST one, CSF. So it's I love it because it's simple, right? You have your 5 phases. Identify, protect, and then boom. And so we talk about now is it's you're going to get breached. It's not.
What do you mean by boom? Make sure we all know that.
Oh yeah. So the boom is the event, right? There's some kind of incident. There's some kind of breach, the B word, that an incident has happened. An incident is, hey, Mr. Customer, I'm protecting your business, but an incident is going to happen. We can't just do identify and protect anymore. We got to look at there's a conference called Write a Boom. Check it out if you haven't. It's an awesome one. But that's the whole thing is what happens after that incident, right? So now it's detect, it's identifying that boom has happened, and then respond and recover. And so putting that emphasis on that, respond and recover. Everybody's always focused on the identify and protect. Well, now you got to have everything afterwards. So as we're walking through that with our customers, it's like, okay, insurance plays into that respond and recover, how you're going to handle that stuff. What we need to have in place, right? We got to have good backups. We have to test those backups so we can actually get you back up and running. And so that's on a lot of stuff on insurance is they're looking at that protect, but it's also, do you have immutable backups? When was the last time you tested? Stuff like that. The stuff that's always been a pain in the butt to get the customers to do. Now it's like, hey, it's not me. Insurance guy wants you to do it. It's on your policy. So just baking that into the QBR process, the security discussions, is insurance is the boogeyman. Right? That we're using that to tell the customers, again, I think it's a good idea. We're, you're security experts, but also this insurance that a lot of companies are having to have at this point is telling you that you got to be doing this too.
Can I play devil's advocate real quick? All right, Dustin, that sounds great. But what if I'm a client and I say, well, isn't that what I hire you for? Maybe I don't believe in right of boom because I think that's never going to happen because I have you, right?
Right. So the biggest thing on that, the first part is there's some things like, so the gift card scams, this is my favorite example with clients, right? Is I just got an email from, Wes Spencer 72964@gmail.com. Hey, Reed, I know it's your first day. We're happy to have you on board. I need you to get some gift cards for some clients. It's a legit email address. Maybe you have something. We use iron scales, that'll pick that up and flag it, but it's not a bulletproof thing, right? The person may go, it's Johnny Go-Getter. He just, first job out of school. He's like, I'm going to go get gift cards. I'm going to impress the boss. It's like, there's only so much I can do for the human factor as an MSP. We can fish these guys all day, but stuff's going to happen. Cyber insurance will cover that. Me as your MSP, I can't refund you for those gift cards. And the other one is on breaches that, okay, let's pretend hypothetically, I'm not even going to go into like service agreements and all that stuff, what's covered, but let's say hypothetically, I can get your business back online, right? We can contain the attack. We can restore your backups. Like, okay, I'm not even going to argue about that. But what about all the other stuff? You're a medical office. You had 5,000 patient records that just got ransomed. They also did the extract. It's on their website. Dr. Wellock's dentistry office says, we have the records. We're going to release them if they don't pay the ransom. Technically, that's a breach. I don't know the Pennsylvania numbers, Reed, but in Texas, I think it's 250 records or more. You got to talk to the attorney general, this, that, and the other. Like, you really want me, your MSP, being your legal advisor, your PR? Like, God, you guys put me on this webinar. That's bad enough. But, my clients don't want me out there talking for them on their behalf, that kind of thing. So it's all the other stuff around it we've seen stuff before here that, client had somebody got into an email account. It was like $90,000. And that was all around the legal, all the other stuff. So all that stuff, that's what I tell clients. I'm like, I can secure your environment, sure, but all that other stuff, lawyers and all that, I don't know anything about that. I fix computers, right? We do cybersecurity.
Another thing I really like out of that, going back to read your question of like, I thought you're already doing this for me. That's the terrible question every MSP is afraid of, right? And usually here's another way to kind of message through that is say, you're right, we have been doing all this for you. And I think you've been really happy. And you guys so far have been doing great. We haven't had any incidents, which is great, but we've been telling you for a while now, it's not a question of if something bad is going to happen. It's a question of when. If Uber and Microsoft and all these companies, really big ones, can get breached and hit by something, so can you. And so, the game is shifting, Miss Client. And as the game is shifting, we have to catch up. We have to keep the status quo the way it is. And the game has changed and things are way more expensive than they ever were before. And as Dustin said, the regulation pieces are really jamming these costs up. And did you know the average cost of ransomware can total up to $1 million, not just in the payment of a ransom, but all those other things. And so, yeah, we have been doing this for you, but to continue to do this for you, this world has changed. And I think you got to get real comfortable with that fact, because I'm just telling you as a cyber person, that is true. That is the fact.
Wes, can I take this as an opportunity to get kind of insurance nerdy, if that's acceptable?
Please.
Okay. So one thing too, so part of the exercise FifthWall does, right, is we educate first. Right. So if you say, hey, FifthWall, can you talk to my client? They have cyber insurance, maybe they don't know what they have. Right. So we'll come in and we'll talk about what they have. We'll do a review and we'll walk through that. Well, part of that exercise of going through coverages, right? And this is not for an MSP to even think about or worry about doing, but it's important. You want to make sure that exercise has been done, because when we go through those coverages, we're actually going through the story of what it looks like from an insurance perspective of how businesses have been affected by these cyber events, right? So you mentioned business interruption. When we do that, a lot of times that's a big light bulb that goes off for the client's mind. They go, wait a minute. So when you say downtime, like, what does that mean? You're like, okay, well, let's talk about ransomware and you not being able to do anything, access anything, do anything. How much revenue would you lost if your business was down for 14 days? Why didn't think about that? Okay, right. Have you thought about reputational damage? Because there's coverage for that too, right? So when you look at an insurance form, it does kind of reflect, and when I say insurance, I mean comprehensive insurance, because look, folks, there is bad insurance out there, right? That's a reality, and that's the war we're fighting. So there's good awareness, that clients understand what they have, they understand what they don't have, and they understand how to get and access what they should have, right? But when we look at comprehensive coverage, it really does cover soup to nuts. I mean, it's all the hard costs, liability, it's covering funds loss, it's causing the indirect costs like business interruption, reputational damage.
So Reed, I got a good example
Yeah.
for you.
Please.
Everybody knows right now Rackspace's hosted exchange has been down since Friday. So if I had a client that, God forbid, was on Rackspace hosted exchange right now, isn't that something that would be covered under their cyber insurance?
Yep.
Isn't that
Do you want me to
interesting?
expand?
Yeah, I think that would be a good one, because that's the other one. You know, we're as MSPs and even just as companies, we're putting a lot of this stuff, you know, not many people are running a data center like they used to be. You know, servers are getting more and more out of the office. We're dependent on Amazon, Google, Rackspace, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that would be a good, back to your question of, you know, the client says, why do I need it? That's another.
Well, also selfishly, as an MSP, you want your client to want this because for your own exposure, right? Because if you think about an MSP and, you know, you've got your business and what you're exposed to, right? There's your own security posture you need to worry about. Well, your clients and their exposure is your exposure too, because if they don't have proper coverage and they get breached and they're under this perception that you're the one responsible for that, when in reality, you've made it clear, there are still too many cases of them saying, well, no, MSP, I thought this is, you should pay this bill, not me. This is your fault, not mine, right? That doesn't really happen if they have good insurance and they were able to not skip a beat and they didn't lose money and their business is still up and running and they're good to go, right? And that's a big soapbox I get in for MSPs, just to kind of have this due diligence and exercise to talk to their clients about it, let alone the sales opportunity. But just as a risk manager, if I were their agent, that would be a big recommendation I would be making.
That's good.
I'll stop with the insurance nerdy stuff.
It's good. So I think it's important for us to talk a little bit about those hurdles, because we see that, right? And we see that guard that sometimes a client has of like, well, I don't think I need insurance, you know, and no one's coming after me. It shouldn't be that expensive anyway. You know, why is this a problem? But Dustin, I want to, so now that we've answered some of that, Dustin, I want to flip to you again on the outcomes. So at Clear Guidance, what kind of outcomes are you seeing from being honestly really good at leading with insurance? Are you seeing an increase in revenue? Are you seeing better customer satisfaction? Are you seeing, you know, just easier use of like selling more controls? Like, what's the outcome for Clear Guidance so far?
Yeah, a couple different pieces. The easiest one is like, you know, taking the sales part away is certain security stuff. Like MFA is the easiest example of, you know, the CEO sitting there going, oh, I don't want to turn on MFA. It's inconvenient. Again, you get to be like, yeah, but dude, it's on your insurance. You signed off on that. Like, you don't want to invalidate your insurance. It is amazing how well that works. We actually have our help desk is whenever people ask for turning off MFA, their default response is, you know, sorry, we can't do that because of cyber insurance. We had one client we found out the hard way a month or two ago that actually didn't have a policy because the guy responds and says, we don't have it, turn it off, please. But for that kind of stuff, it's like, hey, I need you to do these things. It's been awesome from that perspective, right? We have MFA rolled out across the board. We're auditing, you know, with some automation stuff to make sure that if people get put in, we use Duo. If we put people into bypass, you know, that they get re-enabled pretty quickly. But we literally have, I think we have one customer that we're in the middle of rolling it out right now, but it's every new customer gets it for 60 days, gets Duo, gets MFA, all external surfaces. So it's like, I don't want to say we're secure, but you know, who fully is, but I sleep pretty well at night that I know there's not that I know I'm not aware of any big dumb gaps that we have, right? Let's go with that. But just that sort of thing where it's like we're able to consistently deploy, you know, good high baseline security. And then the other part of it is, so we've ended up bundling, you know, a lot of stuff into, so our MSA, it's per seat, right? It's not just the support, but we're doing backups, MFA. We have Huntress, so 24/7 EDR, that kind of thing. And so that's been a great, because it resonates as we're talking to companies that they're like, oh, that's a lot of security. We have more. Like, all right, but you know, do you guys have cyber insurance? Oh yeah. Well, how much did it go up last year? Oh, you know, $15,000. Well, you know, we're going to check a lot more of those boxes. So cyber insurance is going crazy right now. I don't know if it's going to go up or down on that, but you know, last year, whenever it was at that, because you couldn't check any boxes, usually insurance is looking, they want to see that stuff. We're giving you all that. We're adding more stuff every year staying a couple steps ahead of the industry. So there's a reason that insurance is looking for that, right? Statistically, they must be seeing good impact from that. So talking to new companies, talking to existing clients, it's just been a good thing for. It's done more to raise the bar with clients than, again, anything else. And I've been doing this since 2008. So love it from that. After it stopped frustrating me, I started loving it.
So good. That's awesome. I love every piece of that. And I just wanted to zoom in a little bit more. One of the things that we have at FifthWall is because we have pretty much global access, we have the ability to understand what carriers are asking for in those minimums. And we all know these questionnaires that you're getting have gone from, a few questions to a page to now multiple pages. And so there's a lot of questions that MSPs have over those things in terms of like, well, do I have to say yes to every single thing on here? No, you don't. Well, which things are the most important? Which things are like the ones that I have to have in place? And so we've kind of done you a solid here, and we've taken all of those applications and boiled them down into the 5 minimums. So we're not saying when we show these to you here, we're not saying that these are the only 5 you need. We're also not saying that these 5 will only be the 5. There may be a 6th, a 7th, an 8th that comes in here as minimums, but these are mandatory. We're at a stage now where you can't be eligible for insurance usually without this kind of coverage. And so here's what's great about this. I do this over and over and over. Dustin and Reed, what I'm about to say is, how many of you have, the ability to meet and have solutions for all of these in place? And whenever I ask that in a conference, every hand goes up. And then I ask the next question, well, how many of you have 100% of your clients using 100% of these services you offer? And no hands go up. And I don't say that to make you feel guilty. I just say that to say the reality is that's a gap that we have. And so insurance is an excellent solution for this, Dustin, just as you were saying, of these 5 minimums. Now, you guys today are MSPs, you're technical, so I don't need to describe each of these to you. If you have questions about any of these 5, let me know. But these are the 5 we need to have in place. So Dustin, just flipping this back to you, is that something that you guys kind of lead with these 5 minimums? What do you think about these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So, multi-factor resonates really well with people these days. I think for the most part that they may not like it, but they realize that multi-factor is something. So, just kind of running through the list, I'll give you an idea of that. My pitch, if I'm talking to, a prospect, is like, look, we include Cisco Duo, super easy to use. It's a, red check or a green check mark or a red X on there every time you log in. That's it. You just tap it and you go. It protects, integrates with all sorts of stuff. So we make it as easy as possible. I know MFA is a pain in the butt, but unfortunately we got to have it these days, right? So we're including that. Backups we're doing every night up to the cloud, right? So that way, worst case, your business, something major happens, we can restore 24 hours. That's all you're going to lose. Insurance is going to come in, help us get everything back online. EDR, we have the team at Huntress. They got, over 200 people now, 24/7. They're sitting there watching your network. Just talking through all that stuff. And it goes over really well because, again, it's, companies, people, business owners love authority in a sense that they can sit there and they can point to something and say, we're doing it because of this. And insurance gives us a great list for that. It's not, at that point, it's not Dustin Boland, cybersecurity expert, who made up this random list, right? Oh, I did, make up some buzzword that you're, clearly secure, TM or something like that. Who cares? But now it's like, okay, cyber insurance wants to do this. Cyber insurance built this list. It's financially driven, so you know that it's effective. And my company can help you guys meet these security requirements. And it's turnkey, right? We got everything. Back to your point earlier, Wes, to where I always talking to other MSPs. I'm like, all right, so you have all these tools, but you haven't gone in and sat and talked to your clients about them. Like, this is an easy opportunity. Find out when their policy expiration date is, and then 3-4 months ahead of time, sit down. Okay, guys, we're budgeting out. We got to do this stuff to check these boxes. I mean, it is magical how well it works.
So, okay, I'm magical how well it works. That best endorsement you can have. But that's right. And in clients, they're already having to meet these insurance requirements. More and more clients than ever before are going down the insurance route, saying, I've got to solve for this. I need it. Sometimes their own clients are forcing it. But Reed, a question for you here. One thing we hear back is, okay, why these 5, but why not some other things that are like really important, right? Can you kind of, from the insurance side of the house, talk us through how did insurance arrive at these 5 questions, and should we be doing more? Can you give some thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Dustin kind of already alluded to the basic reason is insurance doesn't quite understand what they're doing. But let me try to summarize this really quickly in terms of how did insurance kind of get to a hurry up offense with cyber? Because
Ooh, sports ball
about
analogy.
yeah, you like the sports ball, all right? Get ready. Let me take you back 5 years. If you were trying to get cyber insurance, it was really easy. Okay, the insurers were not asking for much information. A website's revenue, industry, that's about it, right? And so if you compare it to what they used to be asking for, and obviously that did not work out for them. Okay, insurers were losing a ton of money. They lost a ton of money. They still are because they kind of bit off more they can chew. They weren't evaluating businesses properly, and they were kind of over insuring a lot of folks that probably shouldn't have been insurable. Now you've got different insurers, different carriers that are requiring different things. It's not standardized, unfortunately. That's the disappointing part, probably for everyone involved. Is this is not a standardized process. So these are all individual companies that are saying, "All right, guys, we screwed up. Who are we going to talk to figure out what matters? Like what should we be asking for?" And so you're going to be talking to carrier A, B, and C, and they're going to have different experiences based off of their own pain, right? So they may have different losses in different industries, and they may have different justification, but there is a line of best fit that just kind of started to form. And I don't think it was intentional, honestly. It wasn't a strategic effort to say, hey, these five are the best. But when you look at basics to say, and I'm not a security guy again, but there's a lot of data behind easily MFA, right? It's kind of a no-brainer right now. And we're starting seeing some of the no-brainers for insurance companies go, okay, then this is what we should be looking at. But they're all being influenced in different ways, but it is evolving. I think that's the one big thing I want everyone who's tuning in to realize is that these five are kind of it's the line of best fit, but it's evolving. So if you're saying, well, why aren't they requiring more? Well, some carriers are, and most carriers will be. It's just that evolving process. Also, they're looking at paths of least resistance because they still want to achieve volume, right? They have a lot of ground to catch up. So they're not going to ask too much, but they obviously don't want to ask too little, right? So we're at 5 today, Wes. We may be at 10 in a couple months. Who knows? But it's evolving, and unfortunately, it's not standardized. So you're going to have different strokes for different folks.
Indeed so. Indeed so. Okay, so that's been helpful. Let's shift gears a little bit now. So we understand who FifthWall is. We understand what's going on in the insurance landscape. We've had some great advice from Dustin on how to go down this journey of, looks like a question came in too. I'll pop this up. This journey of like, how do we message this better? What are the minimum requirements? So I'm going to get to Tim's question in just a second. But what we'll shift to after Tim's question is going to be a little bit about how FifthWall engages with partners, right? Because it's really important we talk about that so you understand, yes, we're here to educate. Yes, we're here to inform. Yes, we're here to help build your capabilities with your sales teams and your VCIOs so that you get what you need out of this, which is the tools that you need. We know that you're not insurance people and don't want to become so, but you've been caught in the middle of this. And the good thing is there's great opportunity to be in the middle. So let's get to Tim's question before we jump over to that. What are the next 5? You mentioned 10 in a couple months. So I'll start with this one, but then I'm curious what you both think as well, Dustin and Reed. So one thing keep in mind is Dustin, or as Reed, you said, like, are there going to be more? Probably. Do we know exactly which ones? No. It feels like a little bit of like we throw everything into a witch's cauldron and we stir it up for a little bit and we swing a dead chicken around our head and what comes out of it is what comes out. That's how it feels. And there's probably some truth to that. There probably are some dark seances happening in the insurance carrier circle. I'm just saying. But what we do know is they're very reactive and knee jerk, right? So like when one carrier sees XYZ breaches and they pay out on those, they're going to come back and say, well, we need to put some strengths against that to back hold against that. Well, carrier B down the street hasn't seen those things and they may not have those things in place. And that's why you see variance in the carrier marketplace, by the way, of pricing differences from one industry to another, one revenue size to another. But I can give you a few things that I know are going to happen. One is privileged access management. I'm just of the belief that we're starting to see carriers wake up to you as the MSP have so much power. And even though they may be bound with your client, you as the MSP, as the IT provider, have keys to the kingdom. And so there's going to be some importance there around privileged access management. And do you have like local admins running around and who can install different kinds of software and, how you're handling all that? Local
Local
admins
is one that
big
they
one.
we've seen them ask. Yeah, do you have
Big
2 or
one.
less, that kind of thing.
Yep, big one, big one. Totally agree. We're seeing a little bit around SIM as well, right? Like we want to make sure that you have some logging in place because when we come in the aftermath of a breach, if you don't have log availability, oh my gosh, the cost to the carrier just go up out of the off the roof, right? So that's a big one. Those are 2 big ones I can think of. Dustin, Reed, would you say as well?
I'll go first because my favorite, 24/7 EDR. So I mentioned a lot of law firms, which are like high risk. Apparently these lawyers have a bunch of stuff and bill at a high rate. So that's what
And don't care so
Wilson,
much about security,
yeah,
right?
and don't care so much about security. So yeah, Wilson and Will at FifthWall are always telling me that it's like law firms are pretty much universally high risk unless it's a tiny one. But on the high risk ones, like the law firms, is we always see the carriers wanting 24/7 EDR, which I absolutely love because, again, I mentioned earlier we use Huntress, or it's like, oh yeah, I got this. It's included. Imagine that you got security team looking over your network 24/7. I'm not talking like an 8x5 SOC where we're paging some dude on the weekend. It's like butts in seats. There's a reason that insurance loves this. So that's been a big one that's come up more and more for us. Again, with all of our law firms, and we also have a lot of manufacturers, which I know is another bad area for insurance right now. So that's been my favorite one. It's not always required. We're not seeing it always, but it comes up more and more. And that's just, it's a great security control to have.
Absolutely.
Reed?
Yeah, I think you guys stole my low-hanging fruit, but I think one thing that I'm going to add on is there's also going to be I'm not going to say improvements, but changes in how this is validated too. So the controls are one piece, but how is it validated? Are we providing proof? Like, so if we're saying that security awareness training is in place, can you actually prove that it's been implemented across all employees? And it's going to get deeper. It's going to get, and I'm going to say you want that to a degree because insurance right now needs better data so they can get stabilized, right? And right now, unfortunately, they're doing it wrong, right? This once a year attestation, which for other lines of coverage, it works. But for something like cyber, where it is changing day to day, we really need to be aware that this process is going to continue to evolve and change too, right? And we're already seeing it. We're already seeing it to some degrees, and it's starting to get deeper. But I think that's the only piece I would add for right now. But obviously, more to come as the days goes on.
One other thing, Wes, that I've seen that's been kind of a pain in the butt is some of the carriers with the external scans. They're definitely zoning in on those a lot more, to where before it was just making sure you don't have RDP open. We're a FortiGate shop, and there's one carrier that's been denying just based off of using FortiGates in general, because they've decided that they've seen too many issues with FortiGates apparently. So that stuff has been, honestly, I hate it. It's a pain in the butt because I'm like, show me, where's the vulnerability? You've marked it as a critical. That's a specific term. Like, oh, because it's a FortiGate. It's fully patched. It's MFA'd. It's blah, 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 blah. But that's something that's been coming up that we're running into more and more is just those scans. They're almost like pushing you not into certain products, but like out of certain stuff, right? They don't want to see VPNs at all, right? It's, oh, well, why don't you use the zero trust networking stuff? Like, because we're busy and we haven't yet, but I guess we will now.
We haven't yet. I love it. Okay. So great question, Tim. Thank you for asking that. If you have more, just shoot them our way. And by the way, this is what we do all day long is partners are jumping in with us. Hey, can you talk to me about this? A client said that. Like, we're here for you. We're not just slinging insurance. We really are here to educate you on questions exactly like that. So thank you for asking. So let's talk a little bit about that educational journey of what we do with our MSPs to help get them up to speed. And then after that, I'm going to show you a couple next steps that I want everyone on this call today to go dive into around our discovery and our discovery guide. It's some really cool stuff. So I don't know who to start with first. Dustin, I actually think this is better for you because you've actually had a heavy hand in developing our academy. So can you kind of walk us through what that looks like once an MSP engages with us and says, hey, I want to be a partner. I want to go down this journey. Teach me how enable my teams. What does that look like at FifthWall?
Yeah, it's been fun being able to kind of sit on the other side of it to where instead of just bringing Reed into client meetings, I can pester him on a daily basis almost for stuff. So part of what I've helped put together is sort of the onboarding piece, because it was the, okay, maybe you have an agent that you can talk to, or maybe, oh, this is an agency, we work with MSPs, but it's, okay, you still don't understand how we work. So that's been a continuous education thing internally at FifthWall too, is the guys are texting me every day, hey, this came up, like, what does this mean? MRR, PSA, all that fun stuff. So we formalized it and have a sort of training program on Insurance 101. So, and Reed, correct me where I'm wrong, because I'm probably going to miss piece on here, but it's like, okay, hey, I want to work with FifthWall. So we get on, we do an Insurance 101 with, one of our agents, Wilson or Will, and run through just kind of, here's the common misconceptions, right? Insurance doesn't pay out. Like, no, that's because you have one of those endorsements. Here's the security controls that the guy that asked earlier, right? Here's the stuff they're looking for, that kind of stuff. And at that point now, what we set up was we realized a lot of, and we're going to, I think, cover this. There might have been a slide of like, okay, how do I build this into my processes now as an MSP? So something we've started is we're calling it the Cyber Insurance Masterclass. And I've actually been doing it, just speaking from experience and what we've had success with, and then we're refining it, and somebody smarter than me will take it over long term. But it's like, how do you build in? So Wes had earlier, right? Do you have the tools to meet all these controls? Have you sold them to everybody? Okay, cool. Start bringing that up in your QBRs. Go get your clients' policies, figure out that expiration date, because then you have a target now, right? How many times have people had clients where it's like, all right, hey, Mr. Spencer, I know we've been talking about, rolling out hunters for you. We want to have 24/7 EDR. Oh yeah, well, next year we'll get it in the budget. Now it's like, hey, your renewal's 1/1, like you're going to have it by then. When do you want to do it between now and then? And you're able to build that budget around the controls by having those in your QBRs. So that's been, how do we talk through that? How do you talk about each of the controls? We touched on some of the objections a little bit. I'm always scared when we do these that somebody's going to bring up an objection that I haven't heard yet or haven't seen somebody else have a good answer to. But we see a lot of that same stuff. But, I thought you were supposed to cover it. Oh, well, we'll just have insurance. We don't need security, that kind of stuff. But running through all of that we've seen, there's like, if you do this, it works 90% of the time. We've had a bunch of, I've had a bunch of my friends that are doing it too. It's proven at this point. So teaching you how to do it. And then at the end is, the hope is you work with FifthWall, but one of the things I absolutely love is it is again, doing this since 2008, is the easiest partner program ever. Because again, Reed, cover your ears. It's like, theoretically, you could take all this info and go work with a local broker or something too. Like, it's pure education, which is super rare in our industry.
So let's show a piece of it, shall we? And by the way, if you have some questions, fire them in. We'll answer them. We'd love to. But what I want to do is show a piece of what you're talking about there, Dustin, so everyone can see this. So this right here, we'll pop this into chat. It's fifthwallsolutions.com/discovery guide. There's a discovery-guide. We'd love for you to just pop your email in there and we'll get started. We're going to give you access to an email template. And we're going to walk through some things that are really great in here, right? We're going to teach you kind of how this whole process works. And I'm even going to show you the process is what we're going to do. So we're going to walk through all this. You'll be able to book a meeting with us where you can start going down this journey with us, asking those questions. You get to meet Will and Wilson, our reps that you'll be working with every day. They're actually licensed insurance agents. This is a really great landing place. If you're ready for that next step and say, hey, want to master this, not done a good job of this yet, want to get better at it, right here is everything that you need for that. So definitely invite you to go there and jump in. You've got a little video from yours truly around, Cyber 101. We even have game plan like resources for you right here, right? So just jump into those. They're all free. They're all just waiting for you. So just dive into that. What I wanted to show you is the actual discovery form. So this is really cool. Let's say you're doing what Dustin said. You're working through this insurance stuff. You've got a client you're working with right now at this point in time, and you want to start that process. So take a look. We've made this really simple for you. We'll teach you all the ins and outs of it, but this is fifthwallsolutions.com/discovery. You can bring this up, click right in here. It brings up a jot form or a type form. And it's really, really simple. So, does your business have an insurance policy? No, they don't have one, right? It walks you through everything. What's their name? Dictators are us. And you start walking through every piece of this. We're going to give you the website domain. I guess it's going to have something. There we go. Bill. So we're going to walk you. I'm not going to give you every piece of this, but you're going to walk through all of this. It'll give you everything we need to know. It'll let us collect the information we need. If they have a policy, it'll kick off the meetings that we need to start. It literally guides you through every little piece of this journey, which is what's so good about that is it really gives you, there we go, some revenue things. Now I've got this whole thing going through. So it really guides you through so you don't miss any steps. You know exactly what to do, each piece along the way. And we're here to hold your hand through all this, right? We're going to meet with you. We're going to meet with your clients. We're not going to keep you out of the discussion. We can even do pre-game planning with you, or if you're like, hey, look, this is a really important client. They've not budged on EDR for a long time. Can you really make sure you hit that hard when you're talking with them about insurance applicability? Of course we will, because we know they need it and you know they need it. So we get to be that bad guy that can enter the room and say, hey, look, you got to have this. I know you may not have wanted it. You may not know what it is, but you really got to have it. So we're going to walk through all of that with you. We're true partners along the way. So you got a link in there that John sent, FifthWall Solutions /discovery guide. Check that out. Pop your email in there. We'd love for you to get started. Any other thoughts, Dustin or Reed?
I was going to say the, working side by side, that's been something that early on, as I was kind of figuring it out, was a lot of times that we'd go in, we'd have the meeting and then Reed calls me afterwards and he's like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, you guys need to be working on this. You should have jumped in and said you had an answer for that. So that sort of coaching of, we've been real big on that, talking to everybody. It's like, guys, we got to be educating. We got to be telling what to do on the MSP side, because I've learned so much on it. And it's great having like sort of that Sherpa that's making you look good in front of the client, making you look smart. One of my favorite stories was one of the early ones. And Reed was actually my guy at the time. This is going 2 years ago, but I was sitting in the law firm. Reed was on Zoom with the CFO and myself. And, he's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And the CFO's looking at me. I'm like, yep, we got that. We got that. We got that. The CFO's like, so you have all the controls? And Reed was like, yeah, it sounds like you guys are going to be like best in class policy. And the CFO's like looking over at me like, good job. So
he got
it. I think that's that right there is the one piece is we're really looking to facilitate a process, and the process has a lot of value, right? And I think at first, if you're not already doing this, it may not be really clear to see, but man, it really is unfolding in a great way with all of our, not all of our partners, but partners that are really willing to utilize the process, right? Starting to see that we've got more value coming out of this. It's not just, okay, what's in it for me? It's like, oh, wait a minute, I can sell services. You're making me look in front of my client. My client's getting better protected. Now I feel better. There's a lot of these things, and usually it's that first one you want to go through with us, and all of us, and you go, okay, now I get it. Now I see it. So I think that's the big encouragement for me is witnessing folks go through the process is, if you have a client, like, of course, if you got someone right now, you're like, hey, well, yeah, I want to go through that. Like, but can you help me right now? Of course, we'll help you right now. Like, we'll get them coverage. We'll do what we do best. But we still want to take the time to get to know you, get to know your company, and get this embedded.
Yeah, I'll say one of the biggest things too is just like being comfortable with it too. Is even if you're not like, you have a huge gap in security, you need to be doing a lot more. Is just having the knowledge of that was the big thing for me was like, is this big scary black box? And then, again, just early on working with Reed, but we have it kind of in a formal training now, I guess. Knowing and understanding how a lot of stuff works. Do I have to answer everything on this app? Like, no, you don't anymore. So internally, we have about 15 controls that we mark. And then past that is a lot of times it's with the client. It's like, hey, we can do this stuff, but I know Reed knows it's not important. So, hey, we're not going to sweat this as much. So that kind of part, that was a huge thing for me.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions coming in. We'll hang for just another 30 seconds in case, someone's furiously getting that last question out. But reach out to us. The best way to get started is that link we just posted, fifthwallsolutions.com/discovery-guide. That'll get you in. We'll get started, get going on the conversation. As Reed said, if you got a hot burning policy with the client you got to solve, we'll just accelerate everything for that in particular, and then we'll come back to education. If you're just ready to get in the educational journey first before you even commit to anything, that's great. That's literally what we love. Like, we'll teach you everything you need to know around this, and it's the most MSP-friendly insurance program you will find on planet Earth. So much opportunity. You heard this. Dustin, thank you for joining us today and kind of sharing your journey of success at Clear Guidance. That's super helpful. Can't ask for a better partner than you. And just want to say, everyone, thank you for carving some time out with us today and spending some time with us. We're here for you if you have any other questions. And until next time, we will talk to you later. Thank you guys so very much.